What is going on, guys, and welcome back to the YouTube channel. So today I want to talk to you guys and give you my honest and raw opinion on Mr. Eddie Abbew. Okay, now if you don't know who that is, he is probably one of the most popular influencers on the internet at the moment, on Instagram, on TikTok. He's absolutely blown up. The guy's gained millions of followers in the past 12 months. And I remember following Eddie right when he started as well. I think he had, 50, 60,000 followers at that point, maybe even less. And the guy's now got 3.6 million. It's the fastest I've ever seen an Instagram account grow, which is really, really impressive and fair play to him. Now, the reason why I want to do this video, and this isn't, again, to show any hate towards him or anyone. I would never want to do that. Just to give my opinion as someone who's in the fitness industry and who's been doing this for a long time and has helped to transform a lot of physiques over the last 5 years. And the reality is as well, I keep getting a lot of clients and, potentially people question as well in terms of like, if this is an approach they should be using. Okay. Clients sometimes feel like they shouldn't be having something, or, Eddie said this and Eddie said that. I even get guys sometimes tag Eddie Abbew in some of my content on some of my reels on Instagram, where it's like, being in this sort of cult and this tribe towards him. And the guy is, he's extremely popular. And as I said, fair play to what he's achieved in building that real personal brand and that connection, that cult following of people that clearly respect what he does. So in terms of what Eddie's approach is, for maybe any of you that don't follow him, if you don't, then maybe go check out his page and then come back to this video afterwards and watch a few of his pieces of content, some of the most popular ones. Essentially what he promotes is an extremely clean way of eating, and he takes really clean to that next level. Really quite restrictive in terms of what he says for you to eat, in terms of building muscle, in terms of losing body fat, and just being healthy as well. He talks a lot about how foods, have essentially led to us illnesses like cancer, in terms of that causing issues and injuries and acne and all this kind of stuff that he seems to think is related to food and the way that we eat, and how that's changed so much in the past 5-10 years in the way that it's affecting people a lot more than what it has previously. I mean, he's essentially saying is that the risk of getting cancer now is between 1 and 2 people will, and previously it's been like 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 6 or something like that. So it's gone up a lot, and just things like that he seems to think are related to, again, the food and the nutrition that we eat now, typically in the kind of Western world. So what I wanted to kind of give you guys a bit of clarity on as to whether that is something that we should be doing. Essentially, that is an approach that we should be doing. He talks a lot about just consuming a lot of meat. He talks a lot about consuming very little carbohydrates, in fact, hardly any at all, really just limiting it to maybe around workouts and just having very whole foods like sweet potato, and pretty much avoiding anything that's got sugar in it and not having anything that's processed whatsoever. So it's a very extreme approach to nutrition. And of course, that kind of approach without a doubt works. There is no doubt about it. If you eat in that way and you pretty much cut out all the kind of nicer foods or the more processed, the sugary foods that a lot of guys and girls really like, it's very popular in terms of these foods do taste good. If you cut these out, of course, you're going to get amazing results. A lot of what he talks about is, of course, eating a lot of protein. He talks about eating foods that essentially are going to provide you with a lot of healthy fats and nutrients and vitamins and minerals. And again, this does work. So a lot of what Eddie says it is true. Essentially, if you do eat in this particular way, you're going to feel great. You're probably going to get great results. Now, the issue lies is that it's a very difficult way of eating, and it is extremely restrictive that I think personally will lead to some people going the opposite way in terms of developing very poor relationships with food and having food disorders, and essentially really labeling certain foods as being bad and demonizing and not being able to enjoy certain things in life. Okay, there are certain foods that effectively now that he will slate and say that you should completely avoid. Now, I don't agree with this, as I think that everything should be enjoyed in moderation. If you want to enjoy sugar and processed foods, you can still do that. You can still do that daily, weekly, if that's what you decide that you want to do. You shouldn't have to fully restrict. So I think this is where I think the line needs to be drawn. I think, again, a lot of what he says, I do agree with. Having foods that essentially don't set your insulin off as much are going to be more effective for fat loss. It is going to make the process easier. You are going to get less fatigued. You're going to have more energy, essentially. So a lot of this is correct. I think the moderation and the balance is also super important, and you should still be able to enjoy carbohydrates. Don't demonize carbs. You can still enjoy bread. You can still enjoy cereal if you want to have that, which again, he really starts to slate quite a lot. So I think it's just understanding what really goes into this. And the goal and the underlying principle behind losing body fat is still exactly the same as what it was before. Being in a calorie deficit, making sure you're consuming less calories than the calories that you're burning every single day. This is what's going to allow you to drop body fat. This is how we lose weight. That doesn't change, okay? So even if you eat all of the foods that Eddie's talked about, you eat super healthy, you eat all these very kind of nutrient dense foods that are higher in fat, higher in protein, if you still overeat on these foods, you're still not going to lose body fat. You're still not going to be in a calorie deficit. So don't want to miss the wood for the trees in terms of actually what an approach should be towards fat loss. That's still there. When he talks about, not having to track foods and how body only absorbs certain calories, I don't agree with this, because I think that tracking foods essentially is something that we should do to start to understand more about what goes into food, start to understand nutrition and the value of certain foods, and the foods that are going to be higher in calories, the foods that we should consume potentially less of. And that's how we almost going to be able to make predictable progress with our results, by ensuring we're consuming the correct amount of calories. This is something that we've got our clients to do ever since we've started, and we've got amazing results. Sure, a lot of you have seen the kind of transformations that we get with our clients, and a lot of these have come down to tracking foods and making sure that we're aiming for and hitting a certain amount of calories to essentially just ensure that we're going to hit that calorie deficit. We're going to make sure that we're losing body fat. So I guess to kind of summarize this video and give you again my honest opinion about Eddie's approach, I'd say that there's a lot of it which I do agree with. Okay, I do think we should be eating much better quality foods. I do think we should be avoiding processed foods. I do think we should be avoiding a lot of sugary foods that will set insulin off and create a lot of appetite and a lot of hunger and really dip energy levels. We should be doing that. However, I think that we should still have the balance of enjoying these foods every now and then, and just understanding how these foods might affect our body, and knowing kind of how we can place these foods and still enjoy them without them having that kind of adverse effect. And I don't believe that we can be 100% clean and cut all the foods out that potentially we've enjoyed and that we've eaten previously and not have anything that's got carbs in it, all that kind of stuff. I don't believe that's something that really is going to be sustainable for anyone to do, just living off eggs and beef liver and steak and all this kind of stuff. I don't think we're going to be able to enjoy our lives doing that. And again, for some people that may work. However, I think we need to find balance. We need to have that kind of 80-20 approach as to where 80% of foods are of a very good quality. We are eating well, we are eating clean. They're single ingredient foods, like the sort of foods that you can get out of the ground or you can pick off a tree. These are generally the sort of foods we should be eating most of the time. But that 20% or that 10%, if you want to be a little bit stricter, that should be there for enjoyment. We give all of our clients free meals at the weekend where they can go and enjoy a meal out with their friends. They can pretty much have what they want, or they can have a alcohol, a glass of wine or beer if they want to have that as well, and can have chocolate, they can have sweets, they can have bagels, they can have these foods that have been demonized, again, in moderation. We know how to get them in their diet whilst improving and maintaining that adherence, so that they still don't feel like they're restricting and missing out on these foods. Essentially, for us to get our body to a place as to where we're not craving these foods, we would really have to go pretty much fully ketogenic, or at least get our body very much fat adapted for us to stop almost, wanting to have the carbohydrates or the sugary foods every now and then, which again, having done that and having tried the ketogenic approach, I found it very difficult to sustain. And, I didn't give it maybe enough time because my goals changed at certain points. However, I still don't believe that approach is sustainable for most people. I think carbohydrates are needed, and I think that essentially we need to have a diet that would be a good balance between all three macronutrients, and as I say, keeping a good split between good quality foods and also a few of the foods just generally want to have and want to enjoy. So I hope you found this video useful. As I say, I'm not team Eddie, but I'm not against Eddie. I'm kind of just understanding of exactly what he talks about, but essentially at the same time, just given what I believe to be an honest opinion, we have to remember, just to end this video on, that Eddie has got a business. Like myself, he is trying to grow an audience. He is trying to build a personal brand, and he has got a lot of fame and a lot of clout in the past 12 months. And for him now, he realizes that if he talks more extreme and, more kind of direct to one certain side and really hit one certain topic, his following is going to grow even more and his bank account is going to grow even more. So a lot of what Eddie has been maybe speaking more about in the last 6 months or the last 3 months is become more extreme. And a lot of it now potentially, we have to ask the question as to whether he 100% agrees with everything that he is saying, because I actually enjoyed his content a little bit more at the start before we got the fame that he's currently got now. And this is the same with any influencer that you see. Of course, there becomes a point where they start thinking potentially about how can they, grow more of a brand and make more money, maybe as opposed to putting out, such genuine and authentic content like they were before. So anyway, guys, I hope you found this video useful and this review of Eddie. If you found this video useful, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell notification so you're ready for future uploads, and hit subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.